Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the 31 Days of Horror. I'm your host, Mood616, and thank you once again for stopping in, guys. Yes, 31 Days of Horror Volume 8, Day 5, coming at you live and direct. Alright, so we're gonna go to the year 1992. Now, if you're a fan of the podcast, and you probably listened to the Top 10 in 1975 show, and how we do our top 10 years is it's picked randomly. So we actually got the year 1992. I already had this one in the vaults to review on this 31 Days of Horror. So it works out perfect. Killing two birds with one stone. All right. So, and this is one I've been very curious about because when VHShitfest announced this film, they were like super excited to bring this one to the forefront because apparently it was like very, very obscure, very hard to get your hands on. And it's just something that they wanted out there for people to see because I don't think really anybody had ever really seen this one. But yeah, we're talking about the film from 1992 called Lost Prophet. Of course, released by VHShitfest, who does, you know, release a lot of shot on video stuff. This one is actually not shot on video. It's actually shot on 16 millimeter. But getting into a general synopsis of this film. So basically, this one follows our main character. He is, I would assume he's a little bit crazy, kind of out there. He's lost. We'll just put it that way. We'll just put it that way. Like, he's lost. And so the film opens up and he's at like this side of this lake. He's on the shore of this lake and stuff. And he's having a fire and he's just like killed this duck and he's like cooking it up and stuff like that. Anyway, someone approaches him and says, "Hey, why did you do that?" Anyways, he runs away and he finds himself at this like abandoned mansion. And so he's like, okay, so he goes into this thing where he basically confronts like some punk ass kids with filthy ass mouths. It's actually really funny, kind of random. He also comes across like some serial killers and so like some witches and some other things are happening up in this mansion and stuff like that. And that's basically your entire film. Now, my thoughts on Lost Prophet. This is a very Grande type film. It's very experimental. And that's what you're going to get from this. Now, this is a total type of mood type film. Not moods. I mean, it's a mood piece. Like, you kind of have to be in the right mood to watch something like this. Even though it only runs about an hour long, it's still very experimental. That avant-garde type style. So when you're watching this type of movie, you're pretty much scratching your head the entire time going, what the fuck is going on? I think there's a lot of ways to interpret the things that are happening through the film. You can probably kind of decipher a little bit. It'd probably take multiple watches to kind of figure out maybe what the director was trying to go at here. I feel like our main character might be in some type of psychosis or something like that. And a lot of the shit that's happening within this mansion and outside this mansion and stuff like that might actually be in his head, but you really don't know for sure because there is things that are happening that they seem like they're really happening, but then you get a reveal throughout the film that it kind of showcases that it might be a psychosis. It might be, just all in his head and things like that. But, I can't help but notice watching this film. First of all, again, it's shot on 16 millimeter. It's shot in black and white. It's very experimental. It's got this really overpowering, lo-fi kind of bassy soundtrack, which is fantastic at times throughout like the horror parts in the film. The music does change through segments in the movie because of like how the tone and it kind of shifts at times. And it has these really kind of weird moments where it's just like very jarring and off-putting with the music. But overall, the music's like this very lo-fi, very groaning, rumble kind of soundtrack throughout the whole thing that kind of adds to the avant-garde experimental sound of it. But I can't help but watch this film and just think that it's heavily, heavily influenced by David Lynch, considering, it's very experimental, avant-garde type film where when David Lynch did Eraserhead back in the 70s, it was the same type thing. It was a black and white film, very experimental. He's been outspoken about that film many, many times in interviews saying that really the movie was just a collection of scenes that he had shot, kind of put together as a film. There was no real deeper meaning. I do feel like there probably is something in this one, but the whole style and genetic makeup of this movie reminds me of David Lynch. It's totally out there narrative-wise, if you want to even call it a narrative. But it's shot in black and white, 16 millimeter. It's shot in 4:3. It just has all these elements. It's very experimental. It's got, our lead character who's just going around and, you know, encountering, having all these weird encounters. Like, there's so many contrasts between this film and Eraserhead. So I think if you like Eraserhead, you might kind of dig this. But then again, I do think Eraserhead is a lot better type of film. Even though this one might be trying to say something, it does at times leave you scratching your head and stuff like that. There's one, like I said, there's a reveal in the film where I kind of go, okay, so that really kind of puts it into this realm of like neurosis or psychosis or something that's happening inside his head. It might not really be there, but it's funny because the tone of this movie is very serious. Like, there's not really a lot of comedy, but there's these kids in this film. And they're out of left field too. Like, I really can't connect how the kids fit into the narrative, or maybe they're just there for, you know, for runtime or whatever. I have no idea. Maybe even a little bit of comic relief. But these fucking kids remind me of the foul-mouthed kid from Gummo. Like, there's a scene where the first time you see the kid, he's yelling at this adult basically, and he's like, "Go fuck yourself, you fucking." And he's just, every word is F word, and then he punches the guy in the face. It's like so aggressive and ridiculous. But every time you see these kids on screen, they're just filthy mouth and cussing, and it's just so random. But yeah, and that's where the tone of the film kind of changes a little bit. But most of the film is set inside the house with like the witches and serial killer and kind of like all these like really strange things. One thing I really did like about the film, besides the soundtrack, which is probably my favorite thing about the movie, I really like, you know, the score, I should say. The score, it's not really a soundtrack, but the score to the film is like, it's just fantastic. It fits really well. The sound design on this was really well done. I was like very impressed by watching this last night, and it was just booming in my basement. I was like, holy shit, you know, it's, you know, visually I like this type of stuff, but the sound was really kind of captivating. The you know, the score to me almost felt like it was actually part of the narrative. So, which is really cool. But one little aspect of the film I thought was really unique too, which again, going back to Eraserhead, I don't want to fully compare it to Eraserhead, but it's kind of hard not to, considering all the elements are there to this, is a lot of the transitions in the film. Basically, it'll transition and you'll hear a voice, like his voice, but it's kind of mumbled, and it might even been some of the dialogue in reverse, which again had me thinking Twin Peaks from David Lynch. Of course, that's not Eraserhead, but Twin Peaks was done around this time. And there's these scenes in Twin Peaks, if you guys have ever seen it before, with a little short guy, like a little midget dude. And they dubbed all of it. No, they didn't dub it. They reversed all of his dialogue, so it sounds really creepy and shit. There's really creepy scenes in Twin Peaks, but that reminded me of Twin Peaks right away. With the dialogue is very kind of lo-fi, low-toned, and even backwards and stuff like that. And it's almost mumbling, and it's shot, and it's basically just like, you know, like when you're changing film in a theater, stuff like that. You know, you kind of get that whole transgression of like static and stuff like that. That's what it looks like. You know, it feels like they're kind of changing the tape, or it just kind of fades out and stuff, and you get these weird little transitions, and it's very David Lynch-like. So I couldn't help but notice that. But yeah, lots of really interesting things that are happening in this one. It's definitely worth your time if you're into this type of stuff. It's definitely not for everybody. Like I said, Ava Grande type films are generally for a very specific type of crowd. I like shit like this because sometimes I like to watch films and go, and try to decipher things and figure it out and stuff. But at the end of this, I was like, I don't know. Was it in his head? Like, were these people really there? Because the way it progresses and stuff, you're just like, oh, okay, very interesting. But again, you know, it's a film you could probably talk with people and kind of decipher even scene by scene and pieces, you know, put the pieces of the puzzle together essentially. But yeah, Lost Prophet. It's, you know, if I had more time, I would have checked out. There's a commentary on here with the director Michael D. Avila, and I would actually like to hear the commentary to see maybe he deciphers what's exactly going on in this film and stuff like that. So, yeah, Lost Prophet, pretty damn cool film. Not a whole lot more to say about it, considering, you know, it's so short. But all in all, man, I had fun with this. I'm going to give it about a 7.5 out of 10. I feel like this menu is going to give people like seizures. It's totally like hyper exposing me too because of the white and the light and stuff like that too. I apologize if that's really annoying to watch, but I just kind of noticed right now because I never really look at the back, but I'm like, oh shit, I'm starting to get it started to invoke a seizure here on me. But anyways, yeah, Lost Prophet, cool release from VHShitfest. I gotta say the transfer looked really good on this too, because I'm assuming it was super low budget 60mm film stock that they used for this. But But yeah, very cool release. 7.5 out of 10. And that's going to do it for day 5 here on the 31 Days of Horror Volume 8. Of course, we'll be back tomorrow with day 6. And I'm not really too sure exactly where we're going with that one. But anyways, as usual, I'll check you guys later tomorrow.